So, it is now 6:05. Ms. Van Twyver is here. Ms. Raymond? Here. Ms. Timmons? Here. Mr. Oops, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, you've been quiet.
I know it.
Yeah. That's good. I'm sorry, Ray. I do this frequently, so get used to it. Dr. Mosley is here. Ms. Fitzpatrick is here. Dr. McKinney is here. Mr. Donovan is not here, and we have a guest who is?
Gail Casey.
Gail Casey. Nice to have you with us, Gail. Thank you for coming. All right, and we also have Ms. Johansi, and we have the president of the board, Dottie Oden. Did I miss anybody? Did I miss anybody? I always have to double check. Okay, so tonight we have 3 things on our agenda. The first one is some of the action items that we gave Dr. McKinney last time. So if you would like to start with those, the MSP grant, the writing kits, and the network and study sync.
So these are follow-up items from our last meeting, just some more information about the math science partnership grant that was from a few years ago, and that's what we used to fund the ongoing assessment project for math, OGAP. Also included in here are some of the expenses for the writing kits, the Lucy Calkins units of study for teaching writing, and the amounts that were spent for that over the last year or so. And you can see one of the purchase orders from that, as well as the last item. I think there was a request around network capacity at the middle schools for handling study sync, and there's a note from the technology department about their plans going forward for maintaining our network and viability for middle school.
I got some questions.
Oh my goodness,
Oh
already?
my goodness,
Okay.
I told you I would.
All right.
Okay. The first one is why you gave us the email where the award was given to the Concord School District, but I didn't see where we had the total cost. Or maybe I did it. I had $13,095. $13,095.81 when I added up all those things.
I think our funds came in partnership with some of this. I'd have to go back and look through what we can find. The only other information I was able to get from the curriculum office were the notes of the attendees of the curriculum specialist, who at the time was Stacy Batchelder. So I could continue doing research, but I was hoping that this would suffice for some of the information. I could go back to probably the DOE.
You can just check my figures here, 13,051, and I won't pursue that. Maybe the others would.
Okay.
Now this says it's cost from the MSP grant for fiscal 17. Was there an award for fiscal 15 and fiscal calendar years 16? Or is this just for the one? Because they said in this one the reduced budget in the second and third year of it. So I was just wondering about that.
So FY15 is the question?
Yeah, 15 and 16.
Okay.
Got a follow-up and a follow-up.
Yep.
And then I didn't understand on the back page too, it says additional hours, 2 grades, kindergarten to 2 teachers, and 8 grades, 3 to 5 teachers. Does that mean all the grade 2 teachers and all the grade 8 teachers were included in that $750?
That's what was charged to the grant. I'd have to go back into the grant and pull out the information that was charged for that. So I'd have to talk to Carmen to get back to you.
Does anybody else have any questions on this first piece of information that was given to us? Okay. The Lucy Calkins writing kits, you're going to have to refresh my memory on this because I don't remember voting for it, but I'm sure I did. But there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 schools that received no money or received no kits, I would assume.
Right.
Do you remember voting on that?
No, but I have the same question.
Oh, okay. How are we deciding who gets the money and who doesn't?
So some schools may already have bought the kits from previous years, so we only purchase the ones that are necessary. So the purchase order that's listed here is from
Fiscal 18.
January 10th, 2017, which has larger, the second sheet there. And then this one you're looking at here is FY18 that shows the to 1434. So I think it looks like it's split over 2 years.
Split over 2 years.
Yeah, and dealing with Heinemann is a challenge because sometimes if you look through this PO, you can see they have trade packs and they combine things. So you may be purchasing, so you get a bundle, you get a discount, and then deploying those resources to, say you bought one bundle if you cover 2 or 3 schools.
Anybody else have any questions on this piece of information? No? Okay. Good old Heinemann is part of F&P,
Yes, they have a lot of.
whose name I can never remember properly. But I did have a question. Number one, these were shipped to the Broad Street Elementary School, and I was wondering why they were shipped there. They the best storage available.
That's where the curriculum office was last year, and now it's over at Birch Hill.
Well, I thought it used to be over at Amherst Street. Previous, maybe? Okay,
Maybe,
all right.
In the loft.
yeah.
In the loft,
We
yeah.
moved them with their space.
Yeah. So Calkins, there was $30,974 on the bottom of page 1 of this order.
Mhm.
That was writing kits for 5 through K. Is that, can you translate that? Calkins, Lucy Calkins for,
So this is a combined PO that has some of the benchmark kits. If you look at the top for grades 1 and 2, so those are the reading assessments. It does have some of the writing pieces and the trade packs, which are the books the teacher uses as anchor texts. Just trying to go through, and the rest of it is the writing kits and the materials that go along with the writing kits, like the post-its, the anchor charts, and the anchor books.
but this 1,434 is not included in this whole invoice. The $66,938. The shipping is outrageous, $3,346. Where are they located? Let's see. Portsmouth. We could have gone over and picked them up for that amount of money. It's an awful lot of money. And I think we've noticed that on many of our book purchases, that the shipping is outrageous on them. Of course, a solid book is going to be a lot more than I think these would be, but that sounds quite exorbitant to me. Anybody else have any questions on this?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Is there a liability if we want to pick them up ourselves?
Let's have to look into that. We'll be paying, obviously, transportation costs and labor to go and get them, bring them back.
Uh-huh.
We'll look into it.
That's almost, well, I'm not going to do the math. Doris can do the math, she's really good at that. Okay, curriculum office.
There's a question.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
sorry,
I
Dottie.
have a question.
Excuse me, Mrs. Gordon.
Are a lot of these, thank you, are a lot of these like teacher manuals and, let me ask, how do we track them? Because when people retire or leave or go to another school, how do we track these? And I'm asking this because I'm hearing from different people that a lot of the Scott Forsman books are being thrown out, the textbooks. So how do we track these?
The principals are responsible for that, for the classroom setup. So just like we set up a classroom with a teacher desk, student desk, these materials would be there. Like the materials that you have for lifelong literacy that you purchased in the past, those should be in the classroom as well. So,
Well, when they leave, do they sign something to check off that has been there, and are these listed on that?
the end of the year procedure sheet that teachers sign off, like they return their badge or they return their keys, the principals do that accounting at the school level.
Okay.
But if you're hearing that, I would like to look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Didn't I see something in the policy this week, packet that adds that responsibility to have everything checked off, turned in? I think that's tomorrow night's question, but
So I just want to make sure because
yes.
they're expensive, and if a teacher doesn't have that, it's a real problem. So I just want to make sure that's one of the things that's checked off on the sheet should they be leaving the school. Thank you. Because some people think they can take it with them if they're going to another school.
Mrs. Oden, I would suggest maybe that they are out of date by the time they get out of here. I know that my books that I used to write for the computer industry were out of date 6 months. I never wrote a novel that would last that long, but they may be out of date, are they not? I mean, it seems like this stuff can change quite frequently.
The materials themselves, the
Yeah.
publishing date and things like that?
Yeah.
They might be, but the Scott Forsman has other uses, so there are
Oh,
books
okay.
that kids can read and other things, so. And just for your information, that end of year procedure sheet hasn't been updated in probably 2 years, so that's one of the things we'll be working on towards the end of the year, because there's things on there that procedurally we don't do anymore because it's
Mhm.
done by other means.
Thank you.
What I think we're coming to a little bit, just to clarify about the books, is that some of our teachers, they leave the school, like they may leave Amherst Street, but
Mhm.
might go to a different school within the district. So we're
Take it with
asking them to actually leave the materials there
Okay.
and then go to the new school where that material is there as well.
Pick it up.
And not pick it up, and not transport it from school to school.
Mhm. Books are very expensive and
Right.
materials are very expensive, so.
Yeah, I have a question, kind of to piggyback on that. Are the books, do they have like I'm gonna say UPC, but that's not what it is, you know, on them, like other books in the building do? Like I know all the libraries have a little scanner thing. Do the materials in the classrooms have one to identify it or a stamp or something? No?
Lifelong
They're-
literacy books that
we-
we bought for the classroom library,
Mhm.
they're not scanned either.
Not the ones I've seen, they're in a bucket. They may have a teacher name, but more the PD materials the teacher uses. There's a PD library, and those books would be scanned and coded in and out by the librarians, but I don't believe all of the materials are.
Right, I mean, obviously, that would be crazy to ask the librarian to track an entire school's worth of materials. I was just curious if there was anything to identify that this is an Amherst Street school book and this one goes to Birch Hill and, you know, that kind of.
Do they stamp them?
Everything's stamped with Nashua School District on it.
But I think there's an interesting point to that. I hear what you're going. I mean, there's certainly a way to do that. That would be, purchasing like a barcode for each of the books or something like that. And then, because I think that's a great work, just to make sure that we keep an accurate inventory. Because certainly when you're when you're dealing with books, kids, teachers,
Things get
if you have 30 kids in the classroom, you never buy 30 books. You actually buy 35 books because something gets lost throughout the entire year somewhere or another. But I think it's important to, certainly monitor that inventory so that we know where the books are going, but also if we need to purchase more.
Any other questions? Okay, the next piece is on the request by Mr. Kaufman on the IT capabilities of our schools,
Mhm.
so that we can do, which was the product?
Study sync.
Study sync, thank you. So, I have no questions about this. We've talked about access points in the north and south high schools, and so I'm sure that we have to have a few more. Anybody have a question on this sheet?
And he'll be, sorry.
Yeah.
He'll be speaking to this Wednesday. during
Wednesday?
his budget meeting, so, just for access points, the elementary schools are in pretty good shape, but his plan, you can see in the emails, to work to the secondary schools, the middle and the secondary schools, so.
I think that technology is going to be the boon of our budgets from now on, and if you start using them as really hard, using them as tools in the classroom for training, I mean, they get out of date so quickly.
Yep.
It's like I said, 6 months later after I wrote a document, a course was out of date, and another one's coming out. All right, then now this so I think we're moving on now to not the 21st century. We have one more on this one, and that is the in-service day for PLP. And I found this very, very interesting. I found it,
Madam Chair, would it be okay if we came back to that and just let our guests speak
Sure.
to the 21st century program?
okay, I think there's going to be a lot of conversation about this. Huh? All right,
No, I just in fairness to her and her family.
go right ahead then, 21st century program.
So this is Gail Casey, program coordinator for the 21st century. She and I have met a couple times along with Ms. Fitzpatrick and our Title I director, Mr. Chopa, not only looking about summer partnership, but I thought it'd be an opportunity for Ms. Casey to come and speak about the work she does at the 21st century. So
Yes, I'm very interested in this.
Yes, of course.
So 21st Century Extended Day Programs, it's a federal program, it's Titled 4B. So it's a competitive funding source. The funding source typically lasts for 5 years. We're one of 25 sites in the state. I'm giving you a lot of data points, but if at any point you want me to slow down, I can certainly do that. I started working here for the district in July of 2016, and so as part of really taking the time to understand the history of 21st century in Nashua, the data that I've collected, we'll talk about in a minute, is really from the past 4 or 5 years. The leadership in my role has changed quite a bit, so in the last 5-year grant cycle, I'm the 3rd program coordinator. So there's some things that I can speak to and some things that I can't. We just found out good news. The Department of Education has decided to go through a renewal process. So instead of having it be a competitive grant for another 5 years of funding, they've decided that they're going to renew programs who are in compliance with the grant. We are in compliance. We've been in compliance across the board, so we're in a really good position for funding, so that's good. So the 5 schools that we operate in, I'll go right into program. They're the 5 Title I elementary schools. So you see up at the top right, Amherst Street School, which is where my office is, as well as my administrative assistant, Diane Bastiles. Dr. Christ, Fairgrounds Elementary, Ledge Street, and Mount Pleasant. We extended our staffing this year. We had wait lists last year to get into the program, and so we moved some things around and now can accommodate 75 students during after school time. The populations that we target, we work in the 4 schools in the city. We target ELL students, we target homeless and transitional students, and we really look to teacher referrals for the program. The program's been in place for about 17 years at this point, so we're one of the oldest in the state. We're the 2nd in the state to start. So we have a great reputation at the DOE for 21st century programs, which is helpful. If you look at some things that we've been tracking have changed. So they never paid attention to how many students were being supported that were homeless or transitional housing. And so you notice I have it for 2016, that green picture, but I don't have it the years prior because it wasn't something that was being tracked. Free and reduced lunch rates, those rates are what we have. I have on the left some just information for folks. What they had done a couple years ago, and I'm sure you're aware, is they moved the report that for families, they made it, they used technology for families to apply for free and reduced lunch rate, the form. And so when that happened, it really impacted our program and it impacted those numbers because not all families were comfortable filling out that document on a computer. And their guidelines are very strict about having employees of the district sit next to you and assist a family because of confidentiality. And so I think while schools were trying to figure out how best to support families without impeding on their confidentiality, there was definitely a shift in the numbers. So you see the free and reduced lunch rates, they went down. I don't think that's an accurate reflection of what the reality is. I think that's due to changing in the reporting and how when we're getting the information. And I've spoken with Amy Cassidy about that to see, what her thoughts were on if those numbers were real. The other thing that was happening that I think they'll look into, addressing is that when families of a kindergarten student, a half-day kindergarten student, and an elementary school student, say a 4th grader, when a family is filling out this information, they don't consider only filling out the information for the 4th grader. So when they fill out information for the half-day kindergartner who doesn't apply, at least in the past, who didn't apply, and the 4th grader, all that data gets collected regardless of whether it's relevant. And so that really will shift your data because it's not, do you follow what I'm saying? Like if you have somebody applying for free and reduced lunch who won't get a meal, it's going to shift your data a little bit. So that's something else I think that's impacted it. What else? And then ELL students, we've done a lot to work with the ELL teachers for referrals, but also Elo Homework Clubs exist in some of our sites. And so what we've done is ask for the ELL students to come to the 21st century program during the second half of our program. So we operate from after the school bell rings till about 5:45. There's a shift in when all the bells ring, so it's about 3 hours per day. So ELL programs that have homework clubs, or schools that have ELL homework clubs, we've asked for the ELL students to come to 21st century after their homework time so that they can socialize with other students and do some academic enrichment programs during after school. So any questions on any of this?
Yes.
Sure.
Tell me, is there a difference between ELL Homework Club and the regular? Is there a regular homework club?
There is. All of our sites, we offer an hour of homework that's facilitated by a school day teacher. We pay teachers to stay late. The ELL Homework Club it's going to have some supports that our regular homework club wouldn't have. And so ELL Homework Club is facilitated by ELL teachers. Certainly our homework club could be facilitated by ELL teachers, but there's a shortage of that. And so typically we hire teachers that work in that school to stay after school and work for 1 hour during homework club. Homework club operates Monday through Thursday for 1 hour.
And if a child has an IEP, they're in the regular group. As opposed to
Usually, I think when we talk about meeting the needs of the students, 75 students can be in our program at each school, and we have full-time site coordinators that have an office right in the school building, and they spend a lot of time between the hours of 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. meeting with teachers, meeting with parents, meeting with their school leadership to make some decisions about how to best meet the needs of our kids. And so if a student has an IEP and they need additional support, that would be something that the site coordinator and I, or the site coordinator and the team at the school, will determine what the best solution for that would be. Does that answer your question?
It does. I have two sweeties that I do at Dr. Crisp, and they're IEP, but they're not ELL. So I was just
Yeah.
wondering what the difference was there.
Yeah, sure.
I do have a question on their 2017 data on the homeless and transitional.
Yes.
Do you have that data or you
We do
don't
it at
have
the
it
end.
yet?
We do it at the end. That's a great question. We do it at the end of the year,
Okay.
just so that we can get a whole picture. Because some students will come into the program. So if we have a transitional student who doesn't start till next week or week after vacation, then they'll show up in that data. Doug Howard, who's the liaison for Harbor Homes and who works specifically with homeless and transitional youth for the district, he's on the 21st Century Advisory Board. He's done a lot of training for my staff. So that we all have his phone number right in our phones. So if we ever have a student who we think might be in that demographic, we can absolutely call Doug and he follows up really quickly. And same vice versa. So he'll email me and say, I have a family, I need them in the program, and we say absolutely.
Okay. Anybody? I do have another one I forgot. We got some information at one of our meetings that the 21st Century and the after-school program, Title I funded some of the after-school a while back, and when I checked into it, that was not correct, right? You've always been funded by the grant.
Yep, we're Title 4B. So
Title 4B.
Title I, because we operate in the Title I elementary schools, I think that that's kind of where the overlap might be. So last year, Title I was run by Sherry Fulton, and Ms. Fulton came to me and said, I'd like to do tutoring in 21st century programs. So we did do tutoring, and I have some information about that as well. If we want to move forward with this and then go to tutoring, we can just go into tutoring right now. What do you?
No, we'll go to tutoring right now, if
Okay.
that's okay with everybody, because I have a question about that too.
Yeah,
I
so
was really upset when they cut money a couple years ago.
I know. Well, I heard about it. So I did.
Well, you'll know when I'm not
No,
happy.
that's okay. And it's a service that's been supporting a lot of kids. So when Sherry came to me, she came to me in, I would say October, November, and said, we have some money to do this and we'd like to focus this program to be in 21st century. I think largely in part because we're in Title I schools, and also the administration and the leadership is already in place. We have we have myself who's full-time, and then we have one full-time person in all the schools to really pull all these partnerships together and make sure that they're executed appropriately. So when we talked about it, we looked at numbers and we looked at, what the goal of the tutoring would be, who would get tutoring. And so when Title I managed it, the Title I interventionist is what they were called. And so each school had a Title I interventionist that worked for 10 hours a week, and they served 20 students. Sherry went through a process to identify the students with her Title I interventionist that I was not a part of, where she was funding it, and we really served as the place and the initial pool of students. So these were kids that were already staying after school. These were teachers that worked in their school that would stay after school, just like within our homework club. And 5 students at a time, would be pulled from program every half hour so that all students would get some tutoring between Monday and Thursday. And it was the first year that they had done something like that. So that was last year. At the end of last year, Sherry came to me and said, I'm a principal now in one of your sites. I said, that's wonderful, congratulations. And she said, I don't know what's going to be happening with Title I. So we came into this year and I knew that Title I funds probably would not be available. I spoke with some of the Title I interventionists who had done it in the past. learned about what the processes were that Sherry had implemented to identify the students receiving the service, moved my money around in the grant, and paid for it. The other thing that we did, I will not be able to do that next year, I should mention. Last year, we had 3 site coordinators who were out, and rather than hire somebody, I filled in as a site coordinator for about 4 months. And so when you look at a full-time position, me sliding in, I got to learn the culture of the school, I got to meet the families and the kids, and that really was an important part of the hiring process, because I needed to make sure that I hired a full-time person that fit with the culture of that school, and every school is a little bit different. So with all that money I got to roll over for this year, I've used that to cover the costs of Title I, what Title I had covered for tutoring.
I guess what the confusion is that it's called 21st Century, but it's title,
So
which you think is under the other grant, Title I grant.
Title IV. So Title III is ELL, Title X is homelessness, Title IV-B is all 21st century community learning centers.
So how much was the grant for this year?
Every year it's allocated the same amount, it's $415,000.
$415,000. I remember the year that upset me so was when Mr. Conrad was here as a superintendent, and that was $300,000 at the time, and it was tutoring, after-school tutoring, and that really is what made me upset, because our kids can't read and write, you know? So, and this year, if I missed this while you're talking, because I sometimes do, was it used for just the homework club, or was there after-school tutoring for these children who needed help with reading and writing and math?
So Homework Club is part of our program. All of our students participate in Homework Club. For tutoring, there's a process in which the Title I intervention is used that we then followed. I let Deb Goida help me in developing this system so that we were staying true to the process that they had used the year before, because she was part of that as well.
She was excellent too. We had a lot of fun. I worked with her for a whole year with her, but we did STEM things. We did all these really cool experiments and stuff. It was really good.
She does great work.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
So what's the plan for next year? You said
That's a great question.
this year you kind of made it happen with magic.
Mhm.
So next year, is there a plan to continue the tutoring? Is that something we'll see on? I know we missed some of the presentation last Wednesday because it ran long. So where are we on that?
It's not built into our program.
Okay.
So the last year we had a very unusual circumstance. Anytime you have new leadership, there's also a lot of transition that follows. So like I said, I had out of 5 full-time site coordinators, 3 of them were not working for a period of 6 weeks or longer. So during that process, I was able to save money and roll it over to this year. That will not happen this year, especially where I'm spending as much money as I am on tutoring. So I don't have the money in my budget for next year to continue the program. We could look at Title I and see what options are there, but I know Title I funding has gone down as well. So it's going to have to be a decision made, I feel, with our budget committee maybe.
Awesome.
Well, we don't have much on grants. To do with grants, you either get it or you don't, right?
Mhm.
You said that it's continuing, right?
Well, and yes, I had to fill out some paperwork, and we are in compliance with our grants, so we should be getting the $415,000 again next year. They haven't let us know if they plan on letting that run for 1 year or 5. They can go up to 5 years as of this renewal process. They have not told us what they plan to do.
It's just about the Title IV-B grant is $415. How much do you need for the tutoring part?
Well, we also, so with the after-school tutoring came to about $10,000 per school.
Okay.
Because we started late in the game, and because not all schools have teachers who are interested in working after school, we piloted I had extra money, so I wanted to spend down, it being the last year of the grant. So we piloted a morning tutoring program serving 34 students at Dr. Chris, and that cost significantly more. We hired 4 teachers to help 34 students in the morning. We looked at morning attendance for the breakfast program and identified students based on their academic needs to provide that additional programming then. So that program is a lot more expensive. That's like $40,000.
Were the teachers paid the 24, or were they
Teachers all
like
our
$25 an hour? Okay.
Our rates are $25 an hour for teachers.
Then how's the attendance for that morning program?
It's exceptional. I mean, those students are coming every morning anyway for breakfast, and so that program didn't even start until December. And so they had a little bit of attendance data to work with when they were going through and compiling a list of students. Those students were invited to participate. A letter went home saying, is this okay? And the parents said yes, and then they were enrolled.
Anybody else? Yes, Doctor, you have a question, sir?
I was just gonna comment, so two things that are happening, we're trying to finalize summer programming and then look into next year. There may be an opportunity to do some reallocation of the Title I grant to assist with some of the tutoring that's here. And then the second part is, I was at a regional assistant superintendent's meeting and they were talking about some grants that came from the state. So if we can get further into our planning, then we can plan ahead for next year. So that's kind of the next step of reviewing what's in the grant and then pulling some key people together and seeing how we can distribute those funds and apply. There's two levels of grants, smaller and larger grants. One's under 30,000, one's larger than that. So there's, I think, over $1 million available for the state. So.
Well, that's very good. I like that.
That is very good.
Yes, I like that. Make sure you vote for the grant writer.
Yeah.
See, I gave you a plug.
So, did you want me to keep going with this
Sure,
information?
sure.
Okay. So, a little fun fact, this year we increased the number of hours served by 16%. So we offered 950 hours of program. If you look at the blue and the green for each year, so the green is the regular attendees. Those are the kids that are coming every day. And the registered students is the blue. And so in an ideal situation, the green and the blue will be the same amount, right? Because we want kids to come into the program and we want them to stay. We don't want them all to register and then only a third of them decide that they want to keep coming. And so in 2013, I think that we had a ways to go. I wasn't here then, I wasn't here in 2014. And then you see up in 2016, we're getting closer to this, this idea that the blue and the green will be the same number. We want to make sure that we can keep the kids in after school to build relationships with them during after school time. We want them to have fun while they're with us. Now, certainly things come up, students move, students, especially in our transitional housing, they'll move on. And we also have a fifth grade population who gets older and they decide they're maturing and they don't necessarily, the parents may say, why don't we, let them explore other options because our program is very structured. So we get evaluated quite regularly from the Department of Education. We also do a lot of surveys with our parents, with our students, as well as the teachers, and that's just to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done. If you look, I can't see the years on the left side, but you can see the blue is the most recent evaluation, and then the every 5 years they go through what's called SIPUS. It's a continuation of improvement efforts that the state mandates for all grant recipients. So we hired a team of 3 people to come out. We did 21 interviews in a day. It was pretty insane. They come and they visit program, they interview kids, they interview parents, they interview everybody, top to bottom. And then they give you a report on how you're doing. And so you can see our SIPUS evaluation was last year, so all the blue is from last year. So we've definitely made improvements across the board, stayed the same in research and evaluation. And then we take their suggestions and we build them into a plan for the upcoming year and how we can improve even further. Any thoughts on that?
It's pretty
I know, we're
encouraging,
killing it, right?
very encouraging.
I know, I get so excited because we've done a lot of stuff to work. So last year we cut our operating budget by 47%, which is a huge number. It's huge. I know, everybody looks at that and says, what? But I'm a firm believer, partly, if you remember, I had told you that we had 3 site coordinators leave. And instead of hiring somebody immediately to take their place, I went in myself and spent time doing their job. It was really, really important to me that I knew what I was asking people to do, that I knew the culture of the school, of the students, that I could be there for the families, because we had one woman retire after doing this for 15 years, and the families needed to know that I care about them, and that we would hire somebody who's a right fit. It didn't matter how long it would take. So that was a really important part of the job, and I think that was a huge part of the operating cost cut. The other thing that I did was we really looked at what people were being asked to do. Dana O'Gara, the director of HR, sat with me and said, people need to have a clear job description. And what had been happening over time is we hired good people who are very helpful, and they would say, oh, I can do that. I can take care of snack. and a teacher who's facilitating homework, handing out snack, that becomes very costly. Because I don't need to pay someone $25 to hand out snack, even if they're very kind. Right? So I said, thank you very much, I will hand out snack. Why don't you come back at 3:15, okay? And so in looking at how we were operating, rather than having more people come to the school and more people take on responsibilities, we spent a lot of time looking at how we were spending our money, about what we were asking people to do. I spent a lot of time going over job descriptions with Dana Gar and her saying, this is not going to work. And I'd say, I will be back with another draft. And so we just spent a lot of time looking at our staffing and what we needed. We also wanted to be really intentional with our time with the students. So we looked at, what our offerings were during after school as well and what those costs would be. If you look at the 2013, the program was close to being $1 million program. That came from SES funding, which went away in 2014. The Nashua School District used to give a significant amount of money to the program. They have not done that since 2013. The revenue for the program you see is slowly going down. That has a lot to do, I believe, with giving out a lot of scholarships out. Thinking about how many students that we're taking to the program that are coming every day. In the past, if people came 3 times a week, if they missed a day here and there, it wasn't too big of a deal for a family. But where we want to keep the kids every single day for as long as we can to build a relationship, to strengthen their academics, revenue is going to go down from that. And then you can see that the grant has stayed the same. So all of our operating is really coming from the grant, as well as revenue coming in, and that's from tuition. So students are asked to pay $50 a month to attend the program. With the $50 a month comes any tutoring, any homework club, any enrichment classes. So an in-house basketball league would be included in that. We have Girl Scouts in all of our programs. We have a connection with the Apple Store. We're bringing students right into the Apple Store and they're learning about technology. We're working on financial literacy programs. We have drug prevention programs, like the list goes on. So all of that's included in the $50 a month. We also pay for a 1-year calendar year membership to the Boys and Girls Club. They're our co-applicant for the grant. It's mandatory to have a community partner apply with you, and so the Boys and Girls Club has always been the community partner since the foundation of the program, and we pay for a 1-year membership to the club as well.
Did you say that was $15 a month to belong?
$50 a month.
50. So in addition to the
That-
$415,000
to operate,
you're getting $50 a month
per
from
student.
for 75.
But not many of those students can afford $50 a month.
Correct.
And we don't
So
have.
it's like the free lunch program that you get a lower rate.
So I'm really excited they're asking us because I'm very proud of our scholarship process.
Oh,
Basically, what
Oh, that's what
happens-
you meant by scholarship.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So ELL students pay very minimal. They don't have much, Homeless and transitional housing students do not pay anything. We can bill Harbor Homes for a portion of that, or Title X funds, I think, cover some of that. The families that need financial support, the process is they have to meet with me in person. That's it. So they meet with me, and they usually come prepared with a lot of forms of their need, housing statements, things like that. And we don't really look at that, and we just ask the family, are you all right? Like you as a grown-up, as an adult, as a parent, how are you doing? What do you need? And we do that process more, not because we want to chase down poor people for money, but because we want to provide them with a resource that we know about. Because Nashua in particular is very good about referring people to other agencies. And so when a family says, my favorite story is in the beginning, I had a woman who used to say, I can pay $12 a month. And we'd say, okay. And she'd bring a bag of change and she would pay, and she didn't speak English very well. And so we were talking, and I said, she said something to me that she doesn't speak English. And I said, well, Adult Learning Center offers free ELL classes for adults, for us grown-ups, And she had no idea, and she'd been here for 4 years. And so we connected her to ALC. She went to language learning classes, called me, and said, Gail, thank you. Like I wouldn't have known, I've been here for 4 years. And so that process of asking people what they can afford, and I don't give them a number. I say to the family, what are you comfortable doing? We also call scholarship families in December, because it's a hard month, and say, how are you doing? Can you afford this? If you can't, you just have to talk to us. So scholarships for us, it's not about getting the money from the kids and their families. It's more about making sure that they have what they need in the community.
So where does the rest of the money come from?
Really, you're looking at it like the grant and revenue. Revenue. We also we have the USDA, the CACFP snack program. So we offer snacks during after school and we get reimbursed. So there's some revenue that is generated from that as well. United Way just did a fundraiser for us and raised $1,200 so we can offer music classes at Dr. Crispin after school. We have a lot of program partners that offset some of the costs of the program. So like Apple Store doesn't charge us to do that program. Girl Scouts come, they don't charge us. So those kind of things.
Yeah, that's similar to what we're trying to do at the Arlington Street Community Center. We got all our partners together, which is all the nonprofit practically in the city of Nashua. And what we do, and then we put it specifically in front of Title I school, Dr. Chris, so that facility is available for all the city children to come in. But we do that, we connect the dots. So if you don't have anything like a tutor, we can go somewhere else and get that tutor. So that's what we're doing now at the Arlington Street
I
Community
think that's
Center.
wonderful. I mean, Nashua does a really good job of having all of the, you say all the nonprofits, it's the same crew.
It's the same group, I know.
I know.
I know
You
it's
go
the
to
same
these
group,
meetings,
but-
and
yeah,
like if you talk to
right.
one, they're all gonna hear you.
Yeah.
So I think that that's wonderful. It's more of the same. And I think families who are not in the business, who don't do this for a living, who aren't part of all these meetings or, they may not know. So I
And
think
that's
it's
why
just
we
making sure.
centrally located the Arlington Street Community Center to have those parents, one source, one place you can go to learn about every single service in Nashua.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot. There's
it's
a lot of
a
resources
lot,
out there,
yeah.
for sure.
Very involved in that, so yes, it's quite a bit.
I think that might be it. But we do have over 50 school district employees working for us in the program. I think that's all I have for like fun little tidbits here. I try to make it visual. Any other questions for me?
Oh, I do have one other question. The question is, can we get volunteers? We have this resources. Can we use volunteers for tutoring until next year? How does that work? If we have people that come in that can volunteer those services without the $25 fee?
Oh yeah, I mean we can certainly do that. We have a few a lot of our volunteers that come through our program are folks that want to do this work for a living, who are going to school to be educators. Typically it's only 20 hours. The other downs, which is still great, we still take it, and they go through the process of becoming a volunteer, and then they can help out in after school. But I think the big thing about getting the teachers, the reason why it's so important, is that the teacher is in school all day. And there is something to be said for that. The teacher is going to see that student the next morning, is going to build a positive relationship for that student, whether they're their own teacher or not. And I think the more that our students are feeling like they're part of their school community, it's just so important for them. They feel more confident in their school. They can say hi to teachers that they may not have had otherwise, outside of the program. And then teachers are also aware of curriculum changes. When we were doing this with Eureka Math was only offered at Dr. Chris. And so Homework Club at Dr. Cripps looked a certain way that didn't translate to other programs as they were piloting a new education curriculum. So those are some of the reasons why we would want to keep teachers working in after school if we can. Anything else? Clearly I can talk for days about this program.
Well, you did very well, thank you very much. May I ask you to send a copy of these,
I can.
please, because they have to go with the minutes of our
Yes.
meeting, and then send it to all board members, please?
Sure. Absolutely.
Electronically only.
Yep, that's no problem. It's hard to print on this
Yes.
morning.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very good, thank you for coming.
Nice job. Thank you for all you do for our kids.
Yes, no problem. It's fun. Bye, guys.
Pretty well-run program. Very impressive, very impressive. Okay, so now we're back to the Network of Study Sync group. Anybody have any questions on that? That was you said, what is it, which one did we
I thought we
postpone?
were gonna move to the Insurance
Oh,
review from
That's
today.
the one yes, I'm
Did
sorry.
you want me to speak to it, or did you
No,
have some
you can,
questions
I want you to speak to it. Your authoritative
Oh, well, happy to share.
presentation.
So Ms. Fitzpatrick and I collaborated to organize the day. So today was a hybrid day where teachers had the option of, in the afternoon, picking a workshop or working on a plan that meets their learning goals that are aligned with the school and district goals and their goals for recertification. In the morning, kind of our focus in the morning was the changes to the state assessment system. So all teachers in grades 3 through 8 were trained on the interim and benchmark assessments in the grades 3 through 8.
You promised us talk about in March, was it?
March, and I can give you a little sneak preview if you'd like.
Oh,
tonight
yes.
as well, if we still have
Yes.
time. And then you can see
We've
some of
got
the
5
other,
minutes.
things that were presented. We have till 7:30, correct?
That's
Do you want-
correct, yeah.
Okay, sorry. That's okay. So, can I just speak to two things here?
Yeah, I read standards that has your name beside it, or
Oh, I can talk to that one too. Um,
I'm teasing you.
We had a great full-day kindergarten meeting. The teachers met with Mrs. Fulton and Mrs. Blue over at Charlotte and went through the first 100 days of kindergarten, celebrated some successes, some of the challenges they've had. They outlined a process for screening kids, made some suggestions for the tools, but in talking to the two principals and some teachers who sent emails, they were thrilled about what is coming ahead for next year. What else can I help you with? Do you want me to speak to the one thing or
Well-
another, or do you have some questions?
I read standards mastery. Just describe what that is, standards mastery.
A pretty little picture to help with that.
Oh, thank you.
So
Very nice picture.
iReady Student Mastery is, we had second grade teachers trained because they're the lowest grade that it goes to. And what the teachers can do and what they were trained on today is they can pick a standard and have the kids answer a few questions on that standard and see where they are proficiency wise. They can do that in reading and in math. It's only 6 to 10 questions, and the results they get back, unlike the diagnostic that we do, teachers can see the question, how the students answered it. They can see maybe any misconceptions they made. The school or district can look at the student results across the board based on that standard. But also for second graders, it's also a platform that helps them get used to what they would see in third grade when they take the state assessment. So a lot of these tools and formats are very similar. So what we asked second grade teachers today was to go to the training, meet with their grade level team, pick one standard in reading, one standard in math, administer one of these assessments, and then go over the results as a team at their school and talk with their administrators. We asked for them to send us feedback about how some best ways we can use this going forward to improve teaching and learning, and not only that, for teachers to use for evidence for their standards-based reporting too. So it's a nice new tool that's come to our attention.
Are you looking at a website here?
This is just a PDF flyer that they sent me.
Oh, okay. I'm not confused, but I assume that early release days are only half a day program, or maybe two hours of program for PDF for
Oh,
PD,
for
professional
in-service time?
development. Yeah,
Yes.
and that what did we call this?
Full day in service.
Full day in service is more intensive because you've got both morning and afternoon workshops that can attend. All right, so that clears up a little something for me. And I did have. Yeah, okay, you've got the elementary curriculum review and curriculum-based field trip thing here. That was Tom Souza, who was a liaison person on that one. K through 12 music department.
Also in the morning, if they were not attending one of these other workshops, we had department meetings. So art music, PE, library, they all met by department K-12.
I guess that's about. I was just impressed with the number of different professional development things that you have going on here, and I guess I did. We always think of teachers, but the nurses were in here. What else did I find that was? You just don't think of the other. You don't talk about them a lot. You know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting. Does anybody else have any questions about the? And how many in-service days do we have? 2 a year.
2 full days.
2 full
So
days.
usually one whole day is kind of district-driven with district initiatives, and the other day is more a choice day.
For the
where-
school, I noticed
Yeah.
that, yeah. That's good.
I'm curious to know about the second graders, because I got 4 of them in different schools, okay?
Wow.
So, and my question is, in those schools, the evaluation you had on the slide, and you said that eventually they did a what was it that they did today?
An assessment we just
The
call it that.
assessment, is that gonna be out to the public? Is that to see how they each are doing in different grades, and are they getting the same information from one school to the other? Because they're in 3 different schools. So,
So you could contact the teacher to see how those kids did?
no, I wanna see a comparison, like the second graders. If you used the 4th graders in the slide prior, the assessment, this particular outstanding mastery report.
Okay.
And you said you did that for the second graders, or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so you wanted to see how all second grade
Yes.
students were doing? Yes, we can do that.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted.
Yes.
I don't want to talk to teachers.
You don't
only
want to talk to
challenge-
the
No, I
teachers?
don't want to talk to teachers. That's not my job. They get parents.
The only challenge, I was at
Going
one,
through
so we
as a
had
parent.
Mount Pleasant and Ledge for all 12 schools. So half went to one school, the other half went to another. And at Ledge Street, all the second grade teams all picked different standards in reading and in math.
Okay.
So right now, I don't know if we could do this. I'd have to check on the other schools and see if they all picked. But this would be a nice opportunity going forward of saying, here are 2 or 3 standards that are really important to us and critical to kids' success. And if all the kids took it at a certain time, then yes, you could see it by school and the district.
One day I had one at lunch and one, a couple of them at Mount Pleasant.
Okay.
So
All right.
those two are great.
I'll check up
Okay,
on them.
just out of curiosity. That's it.
So yeah, that was my question. Because right now it sounds like the individual teachers or the individual group of teachers at the schools can choose which things to do the standards mastery kind of, I'm going to call it a quiz, whatever, on iReady. Is there a plan to have these things, all schools testing the same thing at the same time so that we can get some idea district-wide or from school to school? Is that already done? Or is that
Not done
coming
yet,
up?
working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that was June's topic, wasn't it?
June's topic.
okay,
yeah.
good.
So,
Just
there are, I don't want to get too technical, but there are 4 types of assessments, and this is just one of those. We want to have all 4, so you have a balanced assessment system. So we have, right now, 2 of the 4, and we're looking to fill in those other 2.
Okay.
So that's the work of the data team and then the steering committees to put forth for, and speak in June and then have something ready for next year. Because you want to have all those little kind of like gates or check marks of learning as kids go through the year so you can remediate as you go.
Right, well, that was my thought. I just feel like it would really address some of Mrs. Van Twyver's concerns about remediation and making sure that, like, how do we know what gaps we need to plug if we don't know what the gaps are, in specific populations. So I'm excited about that. I like data.
And just why we pick second grade is, these are available from 2nd through 8th grade, and much like the other piece that I'll show in a minute, teachers can assign these up and down through the grade levels. So if you had a 2nd grader who performed like a 5th grader, they could take these assessments, or vice versa. The other teachers were trained in these interim and benchmark modules, and that's not a great way to look at it. But what teachers can do is they have modules in there where they can do the same thing as iReady. Those are only through grades 3 through 8 in math, reading, writing, and science. And the kids log on, and this would be an example of a report a teacher would get. So this would be their students. They would see the score, how they perform, the item. They can click on this, see the question. They can see the student response. There are other reports that they can run that show the top 5 questions in the class that they did well on, and the other 5 questions that the kids need to work on. You can sort that list. So the teachers, one of their takeaways, grades 3 through 8 in SAS, is to, again, pick one of those assessments and deliver it to their kids, and then complete a survey. And all those results will be used to put together a plan going forward of how do we utilize these tools going forward.
Is this adaptive? Is it? It's
Some
a
of the
regular test is adaptive, the one that. But is this?
Most of the ones that teachers are going to be using, the benchmark ones, are
Yeah.
fixed forms. They stay the same.
Oh,
Some of the other ones are adaptive where they go up and down.
Benchmark, which is P&L or NP.
Oh,
P-
F&P, yeah.
F&P.
No, I'm glad you're getting the lingo. Yeah, you get-
Hey, sometimes it's going to just roll off my tongue and I'll be happy. But right now it's not.
Mm.
So,
So to your point, you could take a benchmark. So say I was about to do a unit on measurement and data, just to pre-test the class. I could use one of these, see how they do.
okay.
I could use it again in the middle of it, and then I could do my Eureka end of unit assessment at the end, or any combination of those. So you could really see kids learning, advancing as you go through
Yeah,
the
but
unit.
you'd be mixing apples and oranges there, aren't you? If you do a benchmark at the end and I ready at the beginning? I mean, how can you compare the two? Am I missing? You need to send me this one, please.
They're both aligned to the standards,
Yep,
and so is the curriculum.
Yeah.
So you could use this as a pretest.
Yeah.
We would recommend that teachers use the Eureka mid and end of unit module.
Yeah.
But if you, based on the pretest, and you saw kids were struggling,
Mhm.
you could give it to them again and see the results of your interventions, whether it's making an advance or not.
I have to think about this one.
Okay.
Give me a little time?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Guarino, I did not mean to intimidate you by saying you're not speaking. If you have any questions, please,
No,
feel free.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't have any
You're welcome.
questions.
You sure?
Yep.
I feel kind of guilty
No,
now.
no.
Sometimes I come across as very
I would speak
strict.
up. I would ask the question. And
Okay, I didn't want to intimidate you.
So I do have a question.
Okay.
I noticed that Youth Art Month is coming up. Do we have like dates or anything for? I know last year there was like an art show. Do we have that information yet? Just because I'm curious.
The art show is dynamite.
I love the
Best
art show. It makes me very
Well,
happy.
you wait until you see some of the artwork that these children do, and adult.
So since you're stuck here at this table with me, I figured I'd ask you. Do you know when that
I'm
is?
sure Megan Durgan's on top of it, so I can reach out to her. Do you have a little?
Well,
If
actually,
it's not in your brain, that's why.
actually,
I
I
can
was
wait.
at South today for Mike Anderson's presentation for a little while, and as I was leaving, she was there with math, art teachers K through 12, and they were hanging artwork. And so
Soon.
So it's March then, I think, right?
Yeah.
so they were working on it.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. It's one of the things I don't miss every year. It's just walking through the school and looking at the pictures. It's
Right, and I noticed it wasn't on our schedule, so I don't know where that.
well,
where
they
to
will
find it.
post it on the.
Yeah.
You have to. Well, that's one of the things I think needs to be improved is how we announce or publicize events like the plays and the music stuff. I had to hunt around a little bit, but
And I just wanted to finish by saying they were doing professional development because as they were hanging things, they were talking about the different styles, the different grade levels. So it was an opportunity for all levels to share with each other the different kinds of things
talking
they
points.
do at different grade levels and the different focuses they have. So although they were hanging artwork, they were talking about the artwork they were hanging. So I just want to clarify that. I didn't want people thinking they were just hanging up artwork and not doing
Well, that comes in the afternoon with the department, the school topic.
Yeah. Right. Just to my 2 cents in there. When Mrs. Timmons and I were doing some of the tours of the schools, I was really impressed at the various art teachers. It's almost like a multidisciplinary approach. Like the kids, one of the classrooms, they were studying Georgia O'Keeffe, and the children were able to tell me, where she lived and what she did in her life, and then they were doing Georgia O'Keeffe inspired paintings, and they talked about like why they were doing it that way, and I just I was really impressed at the depth of knowledge that they were getting, and it wasn't just painting fun time, which is also good, but I like to see that. We'll see more of that.
Pretty cool.
Anything else? Have you finished with your presentations?
Yes, ma'am.
They're very good. Thank you, enjoyed that. And you're 25 minutes early, so now you have to entertain us for a while. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else they need to talk about? Next month, we're doing what?
This is like a look of disbelief.
On my list with me.
I've forgotten to.
Oh, yeah, if you wanted to take a look at F&P and the
Oh,
benchmark,
yes.
we're gonna do a little guided,
Not a little one, full-blown
Yes.
F&P, so everybody understands how the
okay.
whole thing works.
Wow, really set the
From it-
bar, okay.
Of course,
Some-
this is an A-plus
We're gonna do some
district.
running records on some reading, so yeah.
Yeah, well, you can bring helpers along with you, Dr.
Sure.
Kenny. I don't expect you to know
You
everything.
never know who the special guests are who come through the door,
Yeah. Well, I think it's important. I've heard of it before because Mrs. Oden used to always talk about it at our board meetings. And, I don't have a lot of time to do a lot of the research that I should, but I'm interested because I think it's fascinating how you go about judging a student where they are when they come in the first day of school,
Mhm.
and what you go through, because there's a whole set of books, levels of reading, and then how you do the evaluation at the end to find out where they are, if they made progress. So I'm sure your presentation will be dynamite, I'm sure.
Do my best.
Thank you, sir. Okay, if there's no nothing else to come before, we might as well adjourn, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Seconded.
Okay, very good. And it's now 7:10, say, it's close enough, huh?